Hey guys, welcome back to Main Character Syndrome. I am your host, the redhead, Alyssa, and I now have my other co-host, Rebecca, for today. Hey, Rebecca.
Hey.
Good to have you. So you guys may notice Hannah is no longer with us right now. She's still alive, by the way. That doesn't mean she's dead. She's just too busy girl bossing, and she girl bossed a little too close to the sun, so she needs to scale back on some projects. And unfortunately, our podcast was so brand new that she had to focus on other things, but that's okay because we're going to have a bunch of people come on this podcast to tell us all about their love for Sarah J. Maas and Fourth Wing and the fiction fantasy world. So, Rebecca, good to have you.
Excited to kick off this new series that you're doing with a bunch of new people.
Yes.
Glad I'm the first one. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. So tell us your love for ACOTAR and how you started.
Okay, so I started my series with ACOTAR because Miss Alyssa here, we met and she was just pushing it really hard. No, she really wanted me to read it. And I read fiction, nonfiction?
Yes, you read nonfiction.
I read nonfiction books. And so I jumped into the ACOTAR series as my first fiction book. And this has been my first fiction series, which has just unleashed a whole new world for me.
I love that I've just been recruiting people to my little cult, and it's the Maasverse, which is kind of fun. So what I love about that is this is your first fiction series to get into, and
Yes.
it's a wild one. What a concept to have Sarah J. Maas be the first author that you read for fiction books.
Really set the bar high.
Really?
Yeah.
You never read Harry Potter, never read Hunger Games, none of that.
But they're definitely on the list now.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't disappoint.
Now that you've dipped your toes
Yeah.
into the fantasy world, love that for you. And I love this journey that you're going on, and thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Hey, thanks for bringing me along and showing me the way.
Of course. So tell me, what I like to start out with this podcast is, what did you have a main character moment recently?
Oh, that is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Anything that made you feel like a main character in a story? Because you work for a coffee chain.
I do, but I don't know if I've had a main character moment. I think every day of living is mostly a main character moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to think on that, maybe circle back to it.
I love that.
Thank you.
Every day is a main character moment. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Merch coming soon. So we're talking about A Court of Thorns and Roses and this series on this podcast for right now, but we'll be talking about a ton of other series and thoughts and lore and all that stuff. So be sure to subscribe, tune in. Main Character Syndrome Pod on Instagram and TikTok. So let's get into our podcast for today, which is about A Court of Wings and Ruin. So I think it goes without saying, you need to read the book because we're going to be spoiling a few things here on this podcast. We're going to be talking about relationships and other things that happen in the book. So if you have not read Court of Thorns and Roses, go back, read the book, come back here and listen to our podcast because we've got a lot to say. So at the end of A Court of Mist and Fury, we have Feyre back at the Spring Court with Tammy Tam.
Yes. So she's back in the Spring Court. She is putting on a ruse, trying to convince Tamlin that she's on his side and just really getting intel and trying to send it through the bond to Rhys.
Which the level of delusion that Tim Tam has for thinking that he could deceive his fiance and trap her and basically shove her out the door and make her leave to then aligning yourself with Hyburn while also letting Ianthe turn your sisters into Fae and shoving them into the cauldron, and then being like, but I still love you. I still want you home with me.
But we're good, right?
But we're good, right? Like, what?
He just destroyed her entire life and is like, everything's fine with us, though.
Yes, exactly. Like, I'm aligning myself with Hyburn because I love you. That is gaslighting to a T. Excuse me.
Yeah, he's a little bit wild.
I just don't understand this boy's logic. Like,
yeah,
I get it's coming from a good place in his mind.
He genuinely thinks that he's like,
he thinks he's doing well.
Guy.
He's not doing well at all.
No, he needs checked.
He needs therapy.
That's why I'm glad she's just faking her loyalty and not genuinely being loyal like the first book where she just blindly followed him, even though he was like, had fits of rage, like a crazy guy.
This was an interesting concept for Sarah J. Maas to put in because a bond was broken between Rhys and Feyre, but it wasn't the mate bond. It was their bargain that started everything. So Tamlin is in his delusional world as of, oh, we can just break this mate bond. They don't love each other anymore. Now Feyre is mine.
Yeah.
What?
The way that he just feels like he can take someone else's mate
Yeah.
is crazy.
Because it gives entitlement.
Yeah. But I love you and I had you when you were
Yeah.
human. So obviously now that you're powerful, you're mine too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't want you to learn to read. I didn't want you to learn your powers. I
Mhm.
didn't want you to learn how to fight because you didn't have to.
Yeah.
Because you were my going to be wife. You were going to sit, stay, have my babies, and cook me food. And it just kind of seems like a 1950s husband, like needing his wife to just stay home with the kids and not work.
Absolutely. He's so toxic, and it's like a toxic man who like separates you from your friends and family. It's like he separates her from her knowledge of powers so that she has to rely on him. But thankfully, they still have that bond.
Yeah. And I know a lot of Tamlin apologists out there are going to be like, but he did it out of love. You know, he never wanted to hurt Feyre. Yeah, well, intentions, man. They don't really mean anything from actions.
Tamlin is a tampon and he was out for blood.
This is what we were talking about. So everybody's calling Tamlin tampon, which I absolutely love. And I think it's very much warranted, especially in A Court of Mist and Fury.
Mm-hmm.
First book, he was okay. He was just kind of blah.
Yeah.
He had a blah character.
Uh-huh.
But
he gave me the ick still. In the first book, his little fits of rage where she was like, oh, he's so passionate.
Yes.
No, he was ick.
When did you get the first ick for Tam?
Well, I've always been Team Lucian. So like from the very beginning, I've always wanted her to be with Lucian or wanted more Lucian and less Tamlin. But I mean, you gotta say Calamine.
Calamine! Me too! When he chose someone else?
Ew. And then she's like still makes out with him after that.
I know. I'm like, ugh. But that's the thing other people were saying. So we made it TikTok and it recently went semi-viral with about 60,000 people. And a lot of comments are like, he didn't choose someone else. The magic made him choose for him. And it's like, yes, but would you think that Rhys would make the same decision? Like
Absolutely
he would fight
not.
that tooth and nail.
Yeah, and then it shows that he could have opted out because he has Lucian do it the next time.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Lucian was able to take his place. So why couldn't Lucian do that in the first place?
No, Tam Tam wanted it.
Tam Tam wanted it. Exactly. You gaslighting, buddy. You are gaslighting to a T. This is not going to work for our girl Feyre.
She deserves better.
She deserves better. She deserves so much better. And she got so much better because then we have Shadow Daddy Rhysand, which is amazing. Like, I always talk about this because I'm like, Rhysand's like the who did this to you? He's the I will kill everybody to get you back kind of person. And I'm like, that is just one of my favorite qualities in book boyfriends. But then I'm also like, in real life, like, if I had someone do that for me, I'd be like, oh, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
You know?
If it happened to IRL, I'd be freaked.
Yeah. But like, I love toxic men in books, which is probably a problem.
Yeah. But at least you get your toxicity there.
Exactly. So, and now I know like the signs to look out for.
Yeah.
Let us know if you found any book boyfriends where you're like, oh, now I know what not to have. Now I know what I don't want.
Yeah. Because when you read it and he's like, you're mine. And you're like, oh, hello?
Yeah.
But then if that ever happened,
it's like, excuse me? No, I'm not. I'm an independent woman.
Strong, independent woman. Girl boss era.
Woman. I don't need no man. Oh, man. That's funny. Anywho, we are in the Spring Court. Feyre is in the Spring Court. She is unleashing hell upon Tamlin and his Spring Court and just destroying all relationships that he has with the Sentries, which I am absolutely here for.
Yeah, it needed to happen. I love that she just gives no, can we cuss? No Fs? She's got nothing left to give. She just has no loyalty to him. All for Rhys, and I love that she's just like weaseling her way in there and just trying to destroy it from the inside.
Yeah, no cares given.
Yeah, woman warrior there.
Woman warrior. She's just like, you literally are the worst, and I am going to take you for everything that you have.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it. It's just revenge girl boss. Like, I love Feyre.
Yeah, I love that she turns into just like such a boss at the end of book 1, like where she like sacrifices herself and goes. And I feel like that moment was really pivotal for her. And that was when she was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be trapped by no man. I'm going to show my worth, show up and show out. And she did.
She's a boss bitch. That's what we love. We love her. And then what I didn't like was that, again, with Tamlin knew that Ianthe basically gave Feyre's sisters to Hyburn and let them transform him into Fae. And then Tamlin is just like, Ianthe, you're fine. You're my trusted priestess. It's like, excuse you?
Is she though? Like,
she's supposed to be. She shouldn't be. That's another Tamlin red flag is like, you have someone like this in your council.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
You are who you surround yourself with, and that's who he chooses.
Yes. She's a gaslighter, and so is he. But it was also interesting to see Ianthe's character as the predator, as a woman who's a predator in this like situation with Lucien, because that happens in real life, but not in books usually, because the man is always portrayed as the predator.
Yeah, it was so brave of her to shine a light on it in that perspective, because no one really does. And I love that she is able to paint it in such a way where you really can see both sides.
We kind of get this perspective with Amarantha as well.
Wow. Yeah. Women villains.
Women villains. Women can be evil. I'm the first person to say that, you know? Like, women can be cruel as well as men. So it goes both ways.
It really does.
Just be a kind human being. It is not that hard. All right. So Feyre is done unleashing hell on the Spring Court.
Yes.
And then she gets back to the Night Court after Cassian and Azriel come to her and Lucian's aid.
Yes.
In the Winter Court, because they're on the ice, they're on the lake, and they're fighting with Eris and all this stuff. But I love that. It's like, you know, in the Endgame, in Avengers Endgame, where like the heroes just come and like save the day, and they all just come for their friends. That's kind of the moment that I felt with like Cassian and Azriel. I was like, oh, they came to save their high lady.
Yeah, a beautiful reunion. We also love that it was everyone from the court and not just the man coming to save the day, that it was everyone kind of pitching in and saving the day together and not just being like knight in shining armor.
Yeah, that's the interesting part is like everyone saves Feyre, but Rhys. I mean, Rhys kind of saves her at the wedding.
Yes.
And I suppose in Court of Thorns and Roses, he kind of saves her during her trials. But like Rhys physically coming to Feyre's rescue didn't happen when she needed in a Court of Mist and Fury when she basically needed to get out of the house. And it didn't happen when she needed help with Eris and his brothers.
But she saves him.
Quite a few times.
Girl boss again.
Girl boss. But she's just kind of like, you know what? My friends can help me. Rhys, you're okay. Like, because Rhys was on like a mission or something, and then he found the bond, and Cassian and Azriel were like the closest to them. So they went to go save Feyre. But then my favorite part was like when Lucian's realizing you're the high lady of the Night Court. And then Rhys is just behind, like leaning in the doorway, like, yeah, she is. Yeah, she is.
You go, girl. Yes. I love how in the SGM universe, she just really challenges the what is it called?
The stereotypes.
Yes, she really challenges the different stereotypes between men and women, and she shows like how women are evil and how men are evil, and no matter like who they are, like they can be fae or they can be human, and everyone can be good and everyone can be evil, and it really will go more in depth when we talk more about the human realm. But I love how she just flips like everyone is good and everyone is bad, and not just men are evil, which I love that we paint that picture too. But
different gender roles for sure. And the Feyre can be timid, but then she can also grow into this really badass character that is just so strong and powerful when she was completely powerless in the beginning.
Oh yeah, what a beautiful development.
So then we are back at the Night Court. This is where we get a ton of politics, and it was kind of like, I mean, I love the world building and stuff, but I was kind of bored for a little bit where they were just kind of like setting up for the war. But this was kind of interesting where Feyre's like, why don't we bring in monsters for our cause? Like, Hyburn may have the numbers, but we have monsters. And so that's where they get the Weaver, they get the Bone Carver, they get Bryaxis, which is kind of an interesting character because Bryaxis is just at the bottom of the library. And Cassian is terrified of this creature.
Me too.
And so I'm like, what did Bryaxis do to Cassian? Because Cassian is like this big buff warrior male.
He's just petrified.
He's petrified of this thing. And Feyre's like, meh.
Really wanted allies.
Really, apparently.
But she brings a whole new perspective because that's something that they hadn't done before. And she comes in with fresh eyes and is able to be like, well, why are we not utilizing these resources that we have?
One thing I want to know is the Bone Carver is one of those. And they went to go ask the Bone Carver. And when Feyre sees the Bone Carver, she sees this young child. And at first she thought it was like a young Rhysand, but then she realizes, this is mine and Rhysand's child.
Yes, their sweet little baby boy.
So cute. I was like, oh, is this like a foreshadowing kind of thing? Like, is this going to happen? Like, I need a face hand baby, like, now.
Yeah, and imagine having to go face that situation and then seeing like what your future could be. It'd be so scary, but so beautiful all at the same time. Must have really been in mind bend right there.
So we went with the monsters, and now we get this. The High Lords are needing a meeting to basically like alliance talk.
Yes.
They need to ally with each other. And so we have all of the High Lords at this table. Feyre's there. Where's Tamlin? Tamlin makes a grand exit grand entrance. We're thought and senses, man. They're so hard. Tamlin makes a grand entrance and also fashionably late. And then he just sits down, kind of like no care in the world, just kind of like, you destroyed my court. And she's like, you deserved it. And then he comes back at her with like all these insults, like calling her a whore. And it's like, excuse you, sir. Excuse you.
The audacity that Tamlin finds, I don't know where he got it.
I don't know. Like, how do you have the audacity to be angry about this? Because what you did to this poor girl and her family, you destroyed everything.
Yeah, and what his family did to Rhysand's family, and then he comes in and he's like...
Also gaslighting in that aspect, where he's like, well, Rhysand's family killed my family.
But then like, never says anything else. Doesn't go in depth about it.
Like, Rhysand killed my family, but didn't say that.
Yeah.
His whole family killed yours. And it's like, oh, what?
Yeah. So then you go in thinking Rhysand's bad, but what a switch up.
What a switch up. And that's what I love about like the enemies to lovers to enemies to lovers. And it's just like this whole like fun circle of what do you think is going to happen next? Because you have no idea with Sarah J. Maas.
That's true. She really switches it up all the time. Plot twist after plot twist.
Well, speaking of another plot twist, after this whole, Tamlin insults Feyre and everything, then he's like, maybe work on your side. We'll see. And then Jurian is found to be a double agent.
Yes. That was a shock. Because Jurian was built up so much in the previous book that he was just witnessing everything. And you had no idea that he was actually on our side the whole time. But he was trapped on the Fae side, so he had to fake it till he made it. And then when the wall fell, he showed his loyalty there.
I know. And he's with the humans, and then Grayson happens, and Grayson sees Elaine's Fae form. And poor Elaine, she loves this man so dearly, but I guess love doesn't always win in the end, because Grayson's so appalled, he ends everything with poor Elaine.
She's really going through it. She just transitioned into Fae, and then her love of her life is like, ugh, you're Fae? Ew, you're a powerful woman? No, thank you.
Yeah. You're even more beautiful than before? Well, sorry.
Ugh. Can't one up me, girl.
I never really liked Grayson in the first place, but I also think he's another version of Tamlin where he's just kind of old-fashioned and whatever. But we didn't really get a ton of his character.
No, but we can still hate him.
We can still hate him because what he did to Elaine. But also going with Elaine and her character, I kind of felt like she was an obsolete character just because she didn't really do anything. She was just there. She was just a third sister. She was sweet, innocent. Like everybody had to protect sweet little Elaine. But then as we get to the end, we find out she's not so sweet and innocent.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She lands the little stabby stab to Hyburn.
Stabby stab. She just stabby stabs. Stabby stab murder.
She stabs Hyburn. Well, Nets finishes the job. But she stabs Hyburn. And it's like, okay, we're going to get some character out of Elaine. Like, she's kind of like, I've had enough. But we can get to that. So we're in this final battle after Feyre kind of recruits all the monsters. And after Elaine is, well, we should talk about how Elaine is taken. But I also kind of feel like she is the perfect one to get taken because she literally does nothing. She's always a damsel in distress. So rewind to that part. Elaine's taken. And Feyre goes into this camp disguised as Ianthe because she killed her. She gave her to the Weaver.
But what are you going to do?
Well deserved. Well deserved. I loved that plot twist because I was like, oh, that's a great end for Ianthe.
It really is. she needed to die. And if it's by the Weaver's hand, I've started loving the Weaver.
I know, me too. And that's why
Yeah.
I think that was Feyre's like parting gift to the Weaver, like her olive branch, because
Yeah.
it was like, hey, can you come fight with us? This is an evil person who's also food.
Have at it, girl.
Have all the fun.
Okay,
And
but Feyre,
it sounds like she did.
She is amazing at building relationships with all these different types of creatures, because in the first book, she gave her jewelry to that creepy
the water wraith. Yes,
yeah, the water wraith, and then now she is bringing monsters into battle, and then she's like building all these bonds that no one has done before, because they're like, ew, you don't like talk to these creatures.
She befriended the cereal in the first book.
Yeah, and saved its life.
Yeah, saved its life twice. And it was like, the cereal is like this evil creature and everyone's scared of it. And Feyre's just like, here, here's a rope. I'm going to catch you 3 times. And she's not scared of it. And so it's just kind of like another girl boss. So
absolutely.
That's
She's
kind
awesome.
of an interesting thing. But here we are at the final battle, and we got Tamlin, Durian, and Grayson, and all of the people. We got Miriam and Draken entering on her father's ship. Plot twist.
Oh, yeah.
Here's Daddy Archeron, which we thought was just kind of like this bump on a log, no good father who just ditched his kids, to actually, it turns out that he went to go find reinforcements. So he found Miriam, Draken, came on these 3 ships, the Nesta, the Feyre, and the Elaine. And turns out he's not just a piece of crap. He's actually decent.
Yeah. He was going, and the whole time we didn't see what he was doing. He was working.
Work, Daddy Archeron. So, that's just who he is. But then we get to the war, and unfortunately, Daddy Archeron meets his doom, basically, by Hyburn, which prompts Elaine to stab him in the neck. Basically, stab Hyburn with Azriel's knife, and then Nesta is like gonna finish the job, so she decapitates Hyburn. Here's where the relationship with Nesta and Cassian, because there was an attraction in A Court of Mist and Fury with Nesta and Cassian, but here's where like things are just kind of like, we're gonna die. We didn't explore this. I regret everything. And so Cassian is like almost going to die from the cauldron.
Yeah.
Nesta like warns him in time, and he comes running to her, and in doing that killed his entire warrior fleet that he was with, but not Cassian. Nesta saved Cassian. So it was kind of selfish on her part, because Captain likes to go down with a ship. That's kind of a soldier's like mindset.
Yeah.
Because if they were gonna die, he wanted to die with the soldiers, but Nesta didn't let that happen, which is selfish, but like I probably would have done the same thing.
Absolutely. And at least he got saved.
Yeah. So I didn't want Cassian to die. But going into any kind of book, any kind of battle, like you wonder who is going to die, who's going to be the character to kick the bucket, basically. And we found out there was one that I was like on the verge of like, this is going to happen, but also like they would never.
Who?
So big spoiler alert. If you have not read the book, go read it. Rhysand. Rhysand. Yes. So
unexpected.
Yeah, I kind of thought Daddy Archeron was going to kick the bucket, because I was like, okay, it's kind of like one of those tropes where like the parent has been bad. They've either been abusive or neglectful, and it's just, they just haven't been there for their child, to come back and be like, okay, I'm going to do everything I absolutely can. I did everything for you.
Yeah.
This is why I did what I did. I'm going to save you now. So they love them so much that they want to sacrifice themselves. Then we have Nesta and the Elaine and their badassery, as you will. And then Amren is kind of interesting, because as we've said before, she's a creature we don't know what she is. We have no idea what she is. She's just like this all-powerful being that everyone is terrified of. And so Amren is like, okay, this, in the word book, this is a spell. It's like an unbinding spell. So this unbinds her from her human form. And she's like, when I turn into this monster, duck and cover, because I will not remember who you are. And so that happens, and Amren is in the cauldron, and everything, like the war is over. Amren kills all of Hyburn's army. Everything is kind of hunky-dory. Except she breaks the cauldron. So, fun fact, in order for Prythian to live, the cauldron needs to live.
Yes.
And so here we go. Feyre and Rhys put all their magic into fixing the cauldron, and Rhys gives too much.
Gives it his last drop.
Gives his last drop, and then, this was heartbreaking, where he was like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I'm just like, oh, Rhys.
No.
I was like, Rhys, you're going to die. And he did.
Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces met his doom. But here comes all of the other High Lords, and they're like, you saved us, we're going to save you. Here are the seeds of power, which like is interesting because it's the same way that Feyre was brought back to life, but there's no tether for, I guess, him to pull, except for, I guess, the mate bomb, but they didn't really describe that in A Court of Wings and Ruin, where like neither of them felt like this spark.
Yeah.
Or whatever Feyre felt when she was coming back to life. But I would like to see like that kind of point of view from Rhysand. But anyways, all of the High Lords give power except Tamlin. Tamlin is kind of hesitant, and he's just, Feyre's just looking at him like, please, that's all I want. This is like the last thing that I want from you. And Tamlin kind of just like looks down, gives his piece of power to Rhysand, and is like, be happy, Feyre. Like those 3 little words kind of just like, okay, there are some redeeming qualities in Tamlin. Does he regret what he did to Feyre? I don't know. We'll never really know because we don't have a point of view from him. But I'm wondering, are we going to get a redemption arc for Timmy Tam?
Ooh.
You know?
It does give you the perspective that, like, yeah, I can see where the girls who love Tamlin are coming from, where he is doing these things, but he's doing them the wrong way. But then him coming back and giving his power to the man who, to his point of view, like, stole his woman. But I think that was huge of him to be able to come back and give his power to Rhysand, and knowing that Rhysand and Feyre are mates, so they're equals. And now when Rhysand comes back and he's going to have the same powers as Feyre, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. We don't really know what happens with that, because with Feyre, she got all of the High Lord's powers because she was turned into Fae. With Rhysand, because he's already Fae, I don't know if he's going to get these powers or not. It doesn't seem like he does, because he still has his shadow powers, but are they under the surface? Like, are we going to get that in another book? Like, will he develop these powers? I don't know. I don't know, because he was already Fae when he
That's true.
died and came back to life, but kind of interesting. Some food for thought. But then after, Rhys and Feyre have this like reunion moment, it was like, you die, I die. They made this bargain, and it comes in a tattoo, so we know it's a bargain. So basically it's, as I said, you die, I die. So when one kicks the bucket, they both kick the bucket. And that's the end. So that, I feel like, you haven't read Silver Flames.
I have not.
But that may or may not come back to bite them in the butts. So there is that. What did you think of A Court of Wings and Ruin?
My overall thoughts? What the hell?
There was a lot to unpack.
Yeah, I think Sarah J. Maas is just really good at leaving it at a cliffhanger where you're like, okay, I need to know what happens now. And each book just goes deeper and deeper into the universe and into the story, where it started just like a boring cottage story and turns into this crazy battle scenes, warriors, everyone's dying. So now I can't even imagine where she's going to take it next, because it's already gone crazier and crazier to places I never would have imagined.
What do you want to happen in the next book?
Wow, I know that I won't see Tamlin's perspective, but I would want to see like where his head was at when that happened. But I would love to see just Feyre, Nesta, and Elaine just ruling it all. I really want to see the rise in power of the other 2 sisters and just kind of see where that takes them.
Oh, you're going to love Silver Flames. That's one of my favorite character growth stories of Nesta. I'm interested to see if we get an Elaine book.
Yeah.
Because I want her to have more of a character arc than what she has. Because like, it was cool that she stabbed Hyburn, but like, that's it. Like, she's just, again, the sweet little lamb who stabbed somebody for the first time, and she's probably going to be super traumatized by it.
Yeah, I remember Feyre's first killing. She was not okay.
Yeah, so getting Elaine's story and then maybe shipping her with Azriel, maybe shipping him with someone else. I don't know. But I think there's chemistry there.
Maybe. It's a definite. She needs to be with him.
You think?
I love it.
I think that'd be too predictable, though. And Sarah J. Maas isn't predictable, you know,
That's
because we had
true.
Feyre and Rhys, then we had Nesta and Cassian.
Mm-hmm.
You would think the next one would be Azriel and Elaine. But again, that's predictable.
More.
But more, we find out like squirrels. So as much as we wanted more in Azriel, we can't unless, you know, more changes
Are we
our
setting
mind.
the scene for something?
Unless, I don't know. I'm wondering if it's going to be Azriel and Elaine or Azriel and someone else in Silver Flames.
I can't wait.
I'm excited for you to read it. So that was A Court of Wings and Ruin. Did anything surprise you?
Well, I definitely never expected Tamlin to be the bigger person.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. I know that it kind of gave the backstory of Lucian's family.
Mm-hmm.
That took me by a shock to see that when his brothers finally came.
Yep.
When-
And that he's like Eris's basically brother.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
That was crazy to me. So obviously any book by Sarah J. Maas is going to be, everything is a surprise. But overall, those were the top points for me. What about you?
Well, one thing that kind of threw me for a loop was that Eris might not be the bad guy that we think he is.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he's talking to Mor later in the book, he's kind of like, you know the story.
Mm-hmm.
You want to like tell them the real story, basically. So there's more to that story of Mor being tortured and left for dead in the woods than meets the eye. So I'm wondering if Eris, because Eris has some redeeming qualities in A Court of Wings and Ruin. Like, he's not like his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not like, I think his dad's name is Kier. I can't remember. But he's not like Mor's dad either. So it's really interesting to see that he does have some character qualities that I do kind of like. So I'm wondering, could it be Eris and someone else? Like, could it be, I want to get like Tamlin's story. I want Eris's story. I want Elaine's story. Like, I want them all.
Yeah.
So I feel like Sarah's got some work ahead of her.
Please give us every perspective.
Please give us every perspective. But I would love an Elaine book. It's like other people are like, I don't want an Elaine book. But it's like, you kind of need one at this point because Elaine doesn't really have a story.
Yeah. She's just there.
Yeah. She's just there. She's just taking up space at this point. But I'm really excited to kind of see what SJM does with her character.
Mm-hmm.
So that was ACOWAR. Please let us know your thoughts, concerns, basically fan theories. We'd love to hear them. You can follow us on Instagram, Main Character Syndrome Pod, and also on TikTok. For now, we will leave you with these parting words. To the readers who listen, we'll see you later.